Welcome, everybody. It's me, Stephen Billings, of course, always with me, Mr. Andrew Cabral, and this
Hello,
is
hello.
Unwatched Pile number 4.
Yes, I'm good. I'm glad you've been keeping track because I wasn't sure which one this was. Because of the whole
Yes.
rebrand and because of the whole restart of this whole show that we've been doing, I didn't know if we were counting the old
I didn't
ones,
know if
not
this
counting
was
the old ones.
pre-Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah,
Marvel Cinematic Universe with
it,
was this Blade era, or was
yeah,
this
it's
like
kind of like
Iron Man,
when
post Iron Man?
Criterion started releasing DVDs and they started over again from one and then and
Mm,
didn't just continue
yes.
from like their old Laserdisc days. So I was like, oh, how are we doing
Oh,
this? How are we doing
do
this?
the new Janus contemporaries have numbers? Are they a
That's
part of
we're
it?
gonna find out in October. I
I
can
don't.
tell you that.
I don't think it can have numbers on it.
Um,
I haven't seen
it,
anything about
it's
spy
kind of cool if
numbers.
they do, but if they don't, they don't.
I don't think they do. But that doesn't matter. We're here for another episode of the Unwatched Pile, the show where we dust off our stack of movies sitting around our entertainment center, and we're like, I need to get around to that movie. I've owned that movie for like 10 years, and I still haven't watched it. I need to watch that movie. That happens to all of us, I think, as collectors. Sometimes, we're going to pick movies that maybe we just recently bought, maybe, and we're like, I really want to watch that. So that happens too. But the key here is that we're watching movies that we bought that we need to watch. Buying movies is great, but we need to watch the movies.
Very
And then
true.
sometimes watching the movies, you might decide, even though you had interest at the beginning, maybe I don't need to hold on to this Blu-ray, and it can, you can sell it to somebody that might want it, or you love it and you're like, I'm glad I bought this. I'm glad I blind bought this. So in this episode, we're going to have, of course, another guest, and with us this week is a longtime friend of ours. He's come on, of course, Chasing Labels before, and he's just always a great supporter of ours, and that is film critic Mr. Dan Skip Allen. What's up, man?
Hey guys, I'll tell you what, boy, I'm like an old penny. I just keep turning back up. You guys keep putting me back in your pocket.
Do they use pennies anymore? Are pennies a thing still?
Yeah, well, they're still counting as money, so I guess. I'm glad you said, hey, I might get you on Unwatched Pile. I know you got a lot of stuff that you haven't watched, so I think, yeah, that'd be fun because I do have a lot of stuff. You see, this bookshelf behind me of Criterions is quite a few of those I haven't watched, and I keep getting more of them, and I keep watching them because I'm not watching them, but I'm trying.
It's a problem we all have. We get excited. Things look really cool. It's like the window shopping, but then we can't just window shop, and we're like, okay, I got to get it. Even though we haven't seen them, and it's just part of the discovery. That's what, sometimes.
Yeah, I find that's part of any collecting when it comes to entertainment or media. I know that I also collect books as well and comic books, and that's a continued theme throughout that as well. I've got books I bought when I was in high school back in the mid 2000s, and I'm just starting to read them now. And that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say books are even harder to get, unless you you've read it already, like maybe from a library or something. Like typically you're buying a book because you want to read it.
I read all them books behind you. You see right there. I read every one of them.
Good, man. That's
a nice flex. Well done. Well done.
No, no, I didn't read them. Most of them I read, though. Most of them I read.
You should have just gone with that narrative.
You should have just lied. It's fine.
I'm not a liar. But a lot of these books I have read, though. I will say that, and a lot of those Criterions you see behind me, I have read. But I just got 12.
You've read the Criterions? I hope so.
Read the book.
No, watched. A lot of them Criterions. I just got 12 new ones. And I watched a good handful. Baron Munchausen, though. I don't know if I want to finish that. I saw that when I was a kid, and I'm like, dang it, that second sequence was as bad as I thought it was when I was a kid. Now I think, should I finish Baron von Munchausen?
Well, it's what's his name? I'm not a fan.
Terry Gilliam.
I'm not a Gilliam fan. Not a super Gilliam fan. I like some of his stuff, but not everything.
It's in the same vein as Time Bandits and stuff like that he was doing at the time. Certainly a unique film. I haven't gotten that one yet.
Double. I was actually going to do the double feature of Baron von Munchausen and Time Bandits, and I couldn't even get through Baron von Munchausen because it brought back bad memories of when I was a kid when I saw it.
Yeah, but let's get to the movies that we actually decided to watch as our first time watches. So this week for me, I'm watching. I watched the Richard Kelly is a director that's kind of a cult director. He hasn't done a ton, but he's mostly known for doing the film Donnie Darko. So this was interesting. I was really excited to finally get around to watching this one because in my film, of course, is the Southland Tales, and the stars. It's a star-studded cast. It has Dwayne Johnson before when he was still The Rock, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Sean William Scott, and just an array of just faces, and so yeah, I going into it, I was really interested, and I'll get into my thoughts later. But Andrew, what was your first? What is the film you chose as your first time?
Yeah, I don't know if you wanted me to show it up yet, but I got it available as always.
Yeah.
I decided to watch Secret Ceremony, which is a film by Joseph Losey.
I got to get around to this one too.
Yeah, Joseph Losey. I know Steven's become a big fan of Joseph Losey, and I'm starting to get more of his stuff in my collection. So I was like, I want to watch more of his stuff. I have a few of his movies, so I'm like, perhaps there would be a program in which I was forced to watch movies that I haven't seen yet. It just so happens to be the Unwatched Pile. So yeah, Joseph Losey directed movies like The Servant, Mr. Klein. Mr. Klein has a Criterion release. The Servant has a Criterion release now, as well as a Studio Canal 4K. And Secret Ceremony has actually also been released by Kino here in the States. So it's been around for a little while, but it stars Elizabeth Taylor, Mia Farrow, and Robert Mitchum. So I saw that. I see this movie.
And Dan, please, what is your first time watch this week?
Speaking of Kino, a friend of mine, and I don't know if you guys know him or not. Robert Meyer Burnett had been talking about this film for a while, and he was like raving about it for years now. And then I looked it up, and I said, "Oh my God, this has got the greatest car chase of all time! I got to see this." And so when Kino announced that it was coming out on 4K, I was like, I gotta buy that, and I gotta watch that because there's a lot of things in it, and it's called To Live and Die in L.A., and it's a William Friedkin film, and it stars William Peterson. We all might know who that is from if you're a CSI fan, because he's in CSI Las Vegas, I believe.
Well, I was gonna say Manhunter, but okay.
And he's also in Manhunter. Well, how about that? How about you break into Hollywood, Steven, and you get to work with William Friedkin and Michael Mann? Those are your two first.
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
You're going from a Canadian off-Broadway plays in Canada to bam, you're in William Friedkin film and John and Michael.
The guy that did The Exorcist and the guy that did Thief at the time.
Yeah. So but it's got some big names in it. It has Willem Dafoe in it. It has John Turturro in it. And so this is, we'll obviously get into more of the specifics of this release. But this is the first time watch for me.
Awesome. That's what we asked from you. I was hoping you hadn't seen this. No. And of course, along with this, after we've talked about each film and our first impressions, we will be having all a secret pairing to go along with it, because the way when we thought about the reinvention of this show, I always think about, like, when I first watch a movie, I tend to let my mind stray to, like, what other movies would fit well with this movie, or what does this movie remind me of other movies. And so that helps us, that as film fans, it helps us connect film, to other things. And I think that's why we have this kind of format. So, Andrew, do you want to start this week?
Oh, okay. I shall. Yes.
I know usually I go guest, but I'm gonna go out of order this week.
Well, because Dan, we've known Dan for so long, we don't have to extend him that courtesy, I guess.
Yeah, he's not a guest; he's just a friend along with the ride.
So I went with the indicator release of, like I said, Secret Ceremony, directed by Joseph Losey, which came out in, I believe, 1968. Yes, 1968, and it's a film that's rather divisive. It's divisive in many of its characteristics. When I was on Letterboxd, I saw everyone that I follow on there had from a 0.5-star rating to 4-star rating. It was just a wild gamut of reactions to this film, because it's a film that really pushes its boundaries in terms of its content, in terms of its story. It's a slow-paced film, but I'll get into the plot a little bit without giving away spoilers. So the film, like I said, stars Elizabeth Taylor in kind of her late 60s, like progressive type of part of her career when she was doing roles that were a bit different than what she had done in her earlier, more glamorous roles. Like this is post Cleopatra, post her other work and stuff. So this is around the time when she did the movie Boom with Richard Burton, who was also directed by Joseph Losey. Also came out the same year in 1968, and that's a notoriously kind of cult film. And this one, I believe, is a kind of a cult film as well. At least gave off that vibe. So Elizabeth Taylor is a character she's kind of she's impoverished, she's kind of a wanderer, she may have some mental health issues going on. You get a sense that she's had a traumatic life experience, something that has left her penniless, something that has left her with some type of mental health issues going on, and she's kind of traveling around London, I believe, or somewhere around there, and she is going into a church and she's going to a cemetery to see a grave of a past loved one, and the whole time there's this young woman who spots her and then kind of follows her around. And it's a young Mia Farrow who is in her early 20s in this film. And she spots her. She gets on a bus with her and she spots her. And she believes that Elizabeth Taylor is her mother who has passed away. And so you're getting this instance, okay, of these two characters that clearly are traumatically affected by grand life things that have gone on. And it just so happens that Mia Farrow's character is rather wealthy. She lives in like this large gargantuan mansion all by herself. She's a bit of a shut-in. She may have mental health issues as well, such as schizophrenia, and you see her kind of have episodic things of that going on. But she brings in Elizabeth Taylor to fulfill like this play acting role of her mother who has passed away. And it gets very in depth, gets very serious. And then you have the Robert Mitchum character comes along, and he is the stepfather of the Mia Farrow character. And there's a very disturbing relationship going on there with that instance going on. It's abusive, physically and sexually. I think that's where really turned off a lot of people to this film, because I mentioned that I think Robert Mitchum plays like the most evil character he could ever possibly play in Night of the Hunter. This may in fact be his second most evil character you will ever see him play. Skeezy, scummy, badly intentioned guy who's just skeezing himself on this younger Mia Farrow character who is in a bit of a state of arrested development, so she acts like a younger child. So it makes that all the more disturbing. So the film is dealing with all of these weird, dark, sinister things going on, and the movie itself kind of plays out very slowly, very methodically. It's a bit of a mood piece. So the pacing of the film, and the film clocks in, I think, 109 minutes, and you feel like kind of the slow pace going on. There's not a lot going on plot-wise. It's all about relationships, thematic things going on, but it's a tough film to get through because it is rather challenging your sensibilities as a viewer. You know what I mean? It's really challenging all of those things with a lot of heavy themes and stuff. Shot beautifully, wonderful set decorations in this kind of ancient, almost like this house is kind of stuck in time. And Elizabeth Taylor looks gorgeous on screen. Probably one of the most gorgeous actors you'll ever see on screen throughout her entire career and entire life. And that's very apparent. They put her in a lot of like purple gowns and things and nightgowns and elaborate clothing and fashion things that really accentuate how beautiful she was as an actress, and also she's a powerhouse of an actress. So a rather haunting film in all of its regards. But to this edition, like I said, there was a Kino edition that came out a couple of years ago that only had an audio commentary on it. This has a slew of special features, as well as an audio commentary. It's an interview with Joseph Losey from 1968. It's got an interview with Gavrick Losey, who was his son, who worked along with his father on various productions, did a lot of like second unit directing, producing, stuff like that. And so there's a nice interview with him giving a kind of an overview of his father's career, because Joseph Losey was one of the blacklisted from the House Un-Americans Committee. So he was exiled and kind of had to go overseas in the 1950s. And that's when he made these films like The Servant and Secret Ceremony and stuff like that. That was later on in his career. So you get kind of that perspective from the son, but also someone who collaborated at the same time. So he was able to speak on both his father's, who his father was, as well as his sensibilities as a film director. But also you get, you get like a trailer commentary by Larry Karaszewski, who we've had on the show as a guest once upon a time. So that's really cool. And you do get a limited edition book with the new interviews and writings and stuff. So opening this up, you get the disc as well as the booklet here on the side. Booklet rather thick booklet. So there's the front. There's Mia Farrow and Elizabeth Taylor. Very close, very uncomfortable. That's kind of the vibe this movie gives off, being very uncomfortable. And there is, I believe, Joseph Losey directing Elizabeth Taylor and Mia Farrow on the back. And there's the booklet here. And then on the inside, I think there's also reversible artwork as well, which I think is the original poster or one of the original posters. So you get to see that inside like that. So there, that is it from that. From Secret Ceremony, Joseph Losey, 1968.
So you'd say you enjoyed this?
Oh, I like the movie. Yeah. It's not for everyone, and I could certainly understand why some of the reactions were so negative when I went on Letterboxd. But for me, I like films that very much challenge the status quo of what a film can and cannot do. Specifically, a film made, in the 1960s and kind of pushing those boundaries. And I just like the fact that all these actors were challenging themselves in a rather controversial thematic stuff going on. And I like the whole haunting kind of mystery going on. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's very, very Lynchian, I would say, before David Lynch, obviously. But yeah, I rather like the movie.
And can I just make a point here? Is Robert Mitchum, he's in Cape Fear, correct?
Yeah, he's in the original Cape Fear from the 1960s. Playing Max Cady.
That's not considered one of the most menacing characters.
You know what? Now that you mention that, he's very much similar to Max Cady in this film, but more devious.
Okay.
But more devious as Max Cady.
Oh, okay.
So between Night of the Hunter, this, and Max Cady in Cape Fear, yeah, he played the skeeziest, scumbaggy type guys.
Okay. I just wanted to clear that up because I was like, I think he's in Cape Fear. Is Andrew forgetting that? Because I think he's a nasty character in Cape Fear.
Well, the way in which, I mean, this is a bit of a spoiler for Cape Fear, but the way in which he kind of, the Max Cady character preys on the younger girl in that film, as well as the Scorsese one, that's the type of vibe he has in this film. Okay. But it's even more overt because he's doing it in this film with a sense of like genuineness. Like he really doesn't. While as opposed in Cape Fear, he's doing it to mess with the lawyer character. But for the most part, this is more sincere, which makes it even more messed up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hope I didn't spoil anything.
No. For people who haven't seen Cape Fear.
I'm like, oh no. I hope
it'd be all right.
Yeah.
I've done worse. All right. So that's great. I'm like, as Andrew said, I am a fan of the director. So I mean, I have that same edition. I got to get around to watching it myself. So awesome. Dan, please tell us about To Live and Die in L.A.
Well, as I mentioned, this is a film from William Friedkin. The title says it all. It's To Live and Die in L.A., and it's about these counterfeit police, these government officials, which they can also be secret police for the president. Like if the president's coming into your town, they have to protect the president or whatever. But they also deal with counterfeit money, and so they kind of got fast track on this guy played by Willem Dafoe, who's printing this money and passing it around. And what happens is the main character played by William Peterson, his partner of a long time had 2 days left on the job, and he decides to go investigate this guy, and he gets shot and killed. So this really lights a fire under the William Peterson character to go and find what is going on with this counterfeiting ring with Willem Dafoe at the head of it. And he has a girlfriend who kind of works with him, Deborah Frewer, and then a guy who's kind of like a mule, if you will, in a way. John Turturro, he gets caught, put in prison, then he gets let out and he escapes. So he's got a whole thing going on. And also John Pankow becomes the new partner of William Peterson's character. And it just, if you love LA, if you love this kind of, you want to really get a look on what LA looks like back in 1985, you're really going to get the whole run of the gamut. You're going to get factories, you're going to get highways, you're going to get under bridges, you're going to get alleys, you're going to get everything dirty, gritty, grimy LA back in the 80s. And it really is a love letter. William Friedkin shows a love letter to Los Angeles. I'll tell you what I said earlier about it's considered the best car chase scene in movie history. Having watched it multiple times now, I'll tell you what, guys, there's an alley sequence where they're in like the warehouse district where the cars are weaving through all these trucks coming in and out of warehouses and stuff. And behind the scenes, the camera got knocked off the car, but then they end up on a highway going in the opposite way of traffic. Have you seen that before? Guess what? They got it from To Live and Die in LA. This is the first movie. Billy Joe Hooker, who's in charge of all the stunts and all the action sequences, he's the one who first came up with the idea with Billy Friedkin to do going in the opposite way of traffic. And if you look at, I love these little touches. If you look at when they get on the on-ramp, they go, wrong way, stop. I love that because in reality, that would be the correct way to get on that highway. And they had the traffic flip to the other side. So it looks like they're going in the opposite way. And even the actors were confused, but don't worry. People won't know. Billy Friedkin's like, don't worry about it. People won't know when they're watching the movie. They'll just be concerned with you being hit by cars coming on traffic. And then they're racing beside a train. I mean, this is a crazy sequence. There's no doubt about it. I've watched a lot. Ronin, the second Matrix. There's been a lot of car chase scenes over here. 1985. This is unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable. I watched.
Well, I mean, of course, there's another freaking film that has a good one in there too.
Yeah, I mean, but this, and okay, let's put this out there. Let's put this out. Billy Joe Hooker was told, I want the car chase scene in this movie, which wasn't originally in the script, I might add. They added 6 weeks of filming at the end of the movie to put that scene in the movie. 6 weeks of film. I want this car chase scene to be better than The French Connection. That's what William Friedkin said. So there was a challenge laid down by William Friedkin for Billy Joe Hooker. And I'll tell you what, everybody passed. This movie is fantastic. Well, the main thing is they're counterfeiters, And so this is something, there is a scene of where Willem Dafoe is actually making money. And you're like, wow, this is like there's music in the background, but there really is nothing else going on except how the machines work, how you go with the paint on the thing and add this to that to make fake money. And these guys literally almost got in trouble for counterfeiting money. They thought there was a helicopter coming over where they were trying to make the fake money, that they were going to get in trouble from the actual government for making fake money, because you can't be making. And here's a secret: some of the fake money got out. One of the producer's sons somehow got a hold of some of the money and tried to go buy stuff at a store. And of course, it's $20 bills with nothing on the back. Where'd you get this money? The whole 9 yards. It was a whole debacle involving the film.
Sounds like a pretty awesome practical joke to me.
Yeah, that was the son of one of the producers ended up trying to spend some of the money. So that was the side story as well. There's a lot of great stories on this film. And talk about, I mean, Andrew talked about special features. There's an interview with William Peterson. There's an interview with Deborah Fewer. There's a long interview with Billy Joe Hooker. There's a full documentary making of To Live and Die in L.A. Also, I'd be amiss if I didn't bring up the music. We all heard the song Wang Chung, right? Wang Chung tonight or Wang, whatever. Well, that was an actual band from England. They're called Wang Chung. And they had like a lot of synth music, kind of like of the 80s. You know, there's a lot of synths and that type of electric music and electronic music in the 80s. So Billy freaking heard their music. Like, you know what, guys, come on, make some songs for me. And he said specifically, do not write a song that has To Live and Die in LA in it. And what did they go and do? Make a song that says, and they brought it to him and he loved it. He was like, all right, I'm going to change the entire opening of the movie. I'm going to put the song in the opening of the movie. So there's a lot of, you know, they always talk about there's little things that happen, happy accidents in Hollywood. From what I've gathered from this film, there's a lot of happy accidents in this film to make this a cult classic. This is a 35-year-old film, right? A 38-year-old film, if you will, I think, right? Close to 38 years old.
Something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, and a lot of good things came out of this film that a lot of people have talked about. And just like I said, Robert Meyer Burnett's been talking about this film for years. And I got to see To Live and Die in LA. And I finally did. And I'll tell you what, absolutely love this film. I don't know if I can't remember what I gave it on Letterboxd, if I gave it 5 stars, but this is a fantastic edition. And real quick, we don't want to be here all day. There are 2 editions. You see here, the Blu-ray and the 4K. And the Blu-ray has all the special features on it. And I just want to read this real quick. This on the 4K, it says a federal agent is dead, a killer is loose, and the city of angels is about to explode. I mean, how could you not be excited for that? I mean, if you saw that trailer, if you saw that poster, how does that not excite you, right?
Yeah, I mean, it almost makes me think about LA Confidential. It's got so much like just using the phrase "City of Angels."
Well, yeah, it feels like a very 1980s neo noir.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a neo noir. Yeah,
yeah, you know what I mean. It's a revenge story. It's a detective story. It's like you just said. It's got car chases. It's got action. It's got drama.
Dirty cops.
It's got all kind of things going on in there that is very much entrenched in the whole film noir genre. You got Willem Dafoe as a bad guy, which he just inherently looks like that on screen. You know what I mean? He gives off that vibe so well. This was an early role for Willem Dafoe, like you just said, 1985.
Before Platoon.
Yeah, he is about like a year or 2 before Platoon, and then of course, he would get bigger on later on after that, and then into the 90s. But yeah, it's a really solid film. William Peterson, kind of an underrated actor, I think. I mean, we were mentioning a little bit about his early career before. Of course, people probably know him more so for being on like 300 episodes of CSI, and something like that. He's had a very long, career in acting and stuff like that. But he started out, like you just said, in Manhunter. He was in the movie Thief as well as kind of a small bit part. To Live and Die in LA is actually like the second movie he ever did. And then after that,
I didn't know, Andrew. When I watched this movie, I had no idea what it was about, anything about it. When I watched it, oh my God, it's the guy from CSI. I had no clue he was in it.
Yeah. I didn't really know a lot about him until I saw that movie, until I saw him in Manhunter, until I saw, of course, other films that he was in. Underrated actor, I think. You know what I mean? And I think To Live and Die in LA does have that kind of bit of a cult status to it. But I also think that it's probably getting a lot more eyeballs on it since Shout Factory released it on Blu-ray a few years ago. Now they re-released it again in 4K, which I assume looks pretty damn good.
Oh, fantastic. So, the 4K is amazing. The sound is amazing. Everything's amazing on it. I have to say that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry.
No, that's okay. No, you took the baton right at the right time because I ran out of things to say. I was floundering and you saved me.
You got
Thank
it.
you.
But that's great, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, it's kind of one of them films that I think a lot of people started discovering, like you said, when it started getting good editions some years ago. So, all right. Well, I'm going to try to go ahead.
Real quick, I did see Southland Tales. You asked me before the podcast if I had seen the Southland Tales. I did see Southland's Tales.
I'm sorry for you then, because I watched the. Okay, so as I introduced, this is the film by Richard Kelly, a guy that did Donnie Darko. Love that film. I'm a very big fan of that movie. It's kind of an enigma of a movie. You know, you can kind of understand it, but then it's got so much about it that's still kind of like up, kind of a mystery, still up to interpretation. Southland Tales is that times 1,000, because this movie you can't decipher. There's a lot of things going on in this movie that I don't know that there's a lot of ideas, but not a lot of symmetry. Is the best way I can say it. So you have Dwayne Johnson. He's an actor who has amnesia, and he comes in contact with a porn star who's a reality trying to become a reality TV business person. She wants to sell energy drinks. That's one of the earliest times I've heard people talk about energy drinks was in this movie, which this movie is from 2006. And so, yeah, I mean, there's, like I said, tons of actors in this movie. Sarah Michelle Gellar plays the porn star / reality star. Sean William Scott plays a cop who is told he's a racist cop, which was, yeah. And then there's a slew of other characters. John Lovitz plays another cop that's like, there's like Marxists in this. It's I don't even know. There's political angles to this movie. The movie starts off with World War III starting. There's a nuclear hit. And then from there, the movie lives through different types of like points of view. Like you're living through the internet, like seeing everything through like a screen, because the way that everything is, it's like it pulls back and you're like watching things through screens. You're seeing everything from all around the world, and then you pop into like different characters. There's like 3 or 4 storylines going on that intersect, and it's like one of the most confusing movies I've ever seen. And honestly, I can't really talk about this movie intelligently because I don't know that it's possible.
Understandable. It's a movie you can't explain to people. You just have to let them experience it for themselves. You know what I mean? I feel like that's this type of movie. It's a divisive movie. There are people like I've said with the Secret Ceremony. I've seen everywhere from 5-star reviews of Southland Tales to 1-star review of Southland Tales.
And here's the edition right here. I'm sorry I haven't picked it up yet. It's the Arrow put this out. And a nice edition. I like the cover art. It's a nice slip cover. It's a Blu-ray. I don't know that whether anybody else has put this out. Maybe the studio put it out initially.
Yeah, I thought there was an edition out of that.
There probably is.
I just because I think I actually own a DVD of it. Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure though.
Yeah, it was originally released on Blu-ray back when it came out. By.
What'd you say?
It was originally released when it came out back in the 2000s by Sony.
Okay, Sony. Okay. But yeah, it's got a nice booklet in here too. I like the art. I like the art there on the booklet. You see him right here on this art here. Justin Timberlake plays a character in this film. He's actually, okay, so you can appreciate things about this movie even if you don't really understand why things are happening. And Justin Timberlake is his character is fucking weird, but he's good. I mean, I think he's pretty good. Dwayne Johnson's not really acting yet. He's kind of like doing the wrestler thing. He's kind of like, how he like does these monologues as a wrestler. Well, he's kind of doing that in this movie. And then like his kind of like acting for being nervous is like doing this thing like this. He like does this all the time. That's him being nervous. And it's like, but the thing is the movie is so odd that how it covers up his bad acting. You know what I mean? Because was it intentional? Was it just bad acting? Who knows? Because this movie just doesn't. And part of this movie too that's weird is that even going into it, Richard Kelly says that this movie's kind of an incomplete movie because these movies are based off of, there's like graphic novels that explain the backstory to this movie that the audience as a person that's watching it would know nothing about. Like, and so it completely confuses you. Everything is just thrown at you and you don't know why. Like, you don't know why things are happening. They just happen. And that's why this movie is, I think, for a lot of people, and me on my first watch, of course, very difficult. Very, very difficult. It's a comedy. It's got sci-fi mystery elements. It's
dystopian, political.
Yeah, it's definitely political. It's a lot of what the movie I think is about is just it's kind of trying to like figure out what the future is going to be like, like predicting what the future will be, us living through the internet and living through, using our phone, using technology to interact more, and just how shallow we become as a society. And in a way you could say they predicted some of that. I mean, they predicted Dwayne Johnson's career in a way, like it's funny, it's not at this point. I can't say that I liked it. It was a difficult watch.
It's tough to say whether you like it or not, or whether you more appreciate what it's going for more than actually liking it.
I appreciate that Richard Kelly, who obviously is a thinker, he's a thinking man's director. Like, he's trying to come up with something thought-provoking and interesting, and it was swinging for the fences with this movie. But I don't know that he necessarily. Now, I did watch the theatrical version, not the director's cut version, which is like 20 minutes longer. So I was like, this is my first time watching this. I'm going to watch the version that the people in theater saw the first time. So that's what I watched. And I can't say that I liked it. But I can say that it was an experience, and I would definitely be willing to attempt to watch it again. And try to and maybe watch the director's cut, maybe explain some things better. But it's kind of a mess of a movie, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, Steven, I just it's not nice to laugh at somebody else's misery, but in a way, I'm smiling over here because I'm like, oh, this guy's got to watch it. He ends up watching this piece of garbage movie.
Well, I mean, going into these first time watches, you don't
know what you're getting.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I expect that sometimes I'm not going to like something. I mean, I don't always, Unwatched Pile, this show's not about like gushing over things that we love all the time. Sometimes we discover things that we don't like, even if other people do like it. I expect eventually to get around to something that most people like that I won't like. It's just, we'll see. But in this case, I think it's kind of, this is one of the most divisive films, as Andrew said, that I've ever seen on Letterboxd. If you go to Letterboxd, there's like, it's like mountain range. Like, it's like up and down, it's a wave of like people hate this film and love this film, and in all across the board. Like,
when I saw it, I didn't like it. I'll be honest with you, Steven. I saw this when it came out in theaters, and I absolutely hated this film. I'm
sure you did.
Piece of garbage is this? So when you're saying all these things about it, I'm just over here laughing because I'm like, God Almighty, because I feel your pain. In a
I'm not
in
ways, pain. I it's an experience. I got something from it. I just wish I could have. I wish I had more time with it to be able to talk about it better. But it is what it is. We'll get around to my pairing with it, which I think is appropriate. Yet I wish I could have picked something else, but I think it's appropriate. But let's make our way back around to Andrew. Andrew, what did you decide to pair with Secret Ceremony?
Okay, so it was a little bit of an interesting kind of difficult pairing because I wanted to get something. I don't know whether to go with something thematically similar, vibing similar. You know what I mean? So I had a few choices. I was thinking, for some reason, immediately when I read the synopsis and as I was watching, I was thinking of Robert Altman's Three Women. And then I kind of went out from there because it had been so long since I'd seen that movie. But I went with another film that is also rather controversial and not controversial, but divided, I guess, divisive. That's Stoker by Park Chan-wook or Chan-wook Park.
Good film.
And I went with this film because I feel like I'm one of the few people who really, really like this film, like think it's brilliant. You know what I mean? And I guess this gives me an opportunity to kind of defend it, if you will. It's a film that it's similar to Secret Ceremony. It's dealing with a weird familial thing going on based on codependency, based on some type of mental illness and things going on, messed up relationships. Essentially, in similar to Secret Ceremony and similar to this film, all of these people really needed to go to therapy in some way, shape, or form. They really needed to have some type of professional, mental health assistance, and maybe that would have fixed a lot of the problems and a lot of the things that are going on in both of these films. But since it's similar set up and cast, where you have where Stoker has a mother portrayed by Nicole Kidman, the daughter I believe is portrayed by Mia Wasikowska, who at the time and really in the mid 2010s was a rising star and has kind of faded a bit now. I mean, the last thing I remember her being in of any, big time prominence was Crimson Peak. She was in that, the Guillermo del Toro film, and that was a number of years now. And then you also have Matthew Good in this film, and Matthew Good kind of plays the skeezy character a la Robert Mitchum in Secret Ceremony, kind of preying upon the young girl in this scenario here being Mia Wasikowska's character. But this film is also dealing with a coming of age story that is kind of a messed up coming of age story with the Mia Wasikowska character and her relationship with her mother and how that kind of informs her decisions in life and all of those things. The way in which she gravitates towards the Matthew Good character in this film, who plays the creepy uncle. I know that this film, I believe the screenplay was written by Wentworth Miller. Wentworth Miller from Prison Break fame. And of course, he was on the couple of the CW shows as a villain in there. But he wrote this film based off of Alfred Hitchcock's what's the movie with I'm blanking on it now, Steven.
Go ahead.
It's Shadow of a Doubt.
There you go. I knew you'd get it.
He took the premise of Shadow of a Doubt and kind of put it in a modern sensibility, and then also bringing in the style and the substance and just the bravery, the courageousness of the Park Chan-wook directorial style, and adding it into this movie is this mesh of a really, really interesting film, in my opinion. Park Chan-wook, of course, being the director of Old Boy, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Lady Vengeance, all of those type of really graphic, hard-hitting Korean films, and to bring that style over to a U.S. audience, obviously was met with a little bit of a pushback because the people were not expecting that type of style in their Hollywood film. But I always really, really liked the way this film progressed, how challenging it was, how courageous it was in exploring a lot of these more sinister themes, violence being something that's inherent but also can be brought about by sexual awakening. I feel like that's something that's also brought up in the movie Raw. I feel like that's a big part of that. That director really, really explores that, and I think a lot of her films, especially in Titane and things like that, there's a lot of those things that are more stipulated in foreign films, but are oftentimes brought here to the Hollywood, more American style. And I think Stoker really did that. And Stoker also has that same similar mysterious vibe. Similar to Secret Ceremony, where I kind of didn't know where the movie was going. That's what kind of kept me engaged with it. I think Stoker really does that as well. So gave me that same kind of haunting, slow burn vibe that I really, really liked. This was put out by somewhat defunct 20th Century Fox now. So this was put out, I guess now this is part of the Disney movie library, which is kind of funny to say. And this had a few special features on it, if I could read it. An exclusive look of filmmaker's journey, deleted scenes, theatrical behind the scenes stuff. Looks like just more like designing the look of the film, creating the music, red carpet premiere, and then image gallery and trailers and stuff like that. Nothing in here, just the disc, just the plain old disc. No, nothing else to write home about. But for those of you who like kind of more darker, sinister, dramatic, but maybe perhaps a little horror twist, I would recommend Stoker for people. Kind of underrated, in my opinion.
No, I agree, man. Yeah.
I absolutely love it. I think it's a phenomenal film. I think it made my top 10 of the year that year. I just, you know, Park Chan-wook has really done some amazing films over the year. And you know, we always expect something good from him. And Stoker was no different when it came out. It was amazing. And if people that aren't familiar a whole lot with Matthew Good, I mean, I'll tell you, he was in a show last year called The Offer on Paramount Plus. If you haven't seen The Offer, he plays Robert Evans, famous producer in Hollywood who produced The Godfather. If that's what you got to see him as Robert Evans in The Offer. He's fantastic in that. Mia Wasikowska, it's sad that her, I think she decided to take a break from Hollywood. Something happened in the filming of Maps to the Stars or something like that.
The Cronenberg film? Yeah.
Yeah, and she decided to take a step back from Hollywood.
I mean, she is still working now that I look at her IMDb. I mean, she's still in things, but nothing that I really you know, she was in the movie The Devil All the Time, which is that Netflix film with Tom Holland. She was in that. She was in Bergman Island, which actually has a Criterion release.
I just got it. I haven't watched it yet. I just got it, so I'm going to have to watch it.
It's good. I really like that film. That film starring Vicky Krieps and Tim Roth. Really, really good film. So she was in that. So she's kind of going from more. Well, she was always kind of rather in the indie realm, but of course she was in Alice in Wonderland and then the sequel as well, which is of course more mainstream Disney work. But she, I guess, has kind of gone back to the indie realm of things, which is fine. I just wish like some of these films would be more well known, like out there for us to watch. I haven't heard of some of these, and I haven't seen some of these yet.
But yeah, that Maps the Star, I think something when that movie was like lambasted by the critics and really they attacked that movie a lot, and I think that really affected her, and that's why she started stepping back. If she's doing stuff, that's because she probably must really feel strongly about whatever the project. Bergman Island, Stephen and I have talked about that. I missed that when it was out that year, and I had told Steve, I said, "Oh, I can't believe it! Criterion's doing Bergman Island. I got to see that." I haven't got around to watching. I got it in for the Criterion 50% off sale, and I just haven't had a chance to watch it. But I'm gonna definitely watch it. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, and I do want to mention, just wrapping it up, because I want to hand it off to Steven right now. Stoker came out in 2013, which is now 10 years ago. Can't believe it's been 10 years since this movie came out.
Wow.
Just wanted to bring that up in terms of how time keeps moving.
I was going to say, Andrew is like Christopher Nolan. He loves to mention time. He's all about time.
I do love time. Well, everyone, go watch Oppenheimer.
Oh, okay. Everybody, please go watch Oppenheimer.
Yeah. All right, Dan. What is the pairing with To Live and Die in LA? Come on, man.
Well, a little bit behind the scenes stuff here. I've been playing with what I was going to do. I didn't know. And I was going to do a different film. I was going to actually do a different film for this. And these guys delayed the show a little bit because of Andrew was on another podcast. And it allowed me to get To Live and Die in LA in the mail and watch it. Then it allowed me to do a more pure pairing of another William Friedkin film instead of Cruising, which I thought was a little weird. I mean, and the stories, it's been coming out that Friedkin did not get along with Al Pacino. He was telling people that he did not like Al Pacino, and that it alluded to the fact that he went out looking for complete unknowns for To Live and Die in LA because he was sick and tired of working with quote unquote stars and their ego and all this kind of stuff based on his relationship with Al Pacino on Cruising. And then, so that's why you got the guys, two unknowns, and To Live and Die in L.A. Now we all know John Pankow and William Peterson, but that's just kind of like a little bit of behind the scenes. So I didn't end up doing Cruising because I felt like it wasn't as a pure of a pairing with To Live and Die in L.A. But I alluded to it before, and it's The French Connection. I have the DVD. I ordered the Blu-ray, and I'm having problems with it. Didn't come in. I've tried to order this movie about 3 times now, and it hasn't come in. So I had to show you the DVD because that's what I have in my possession. But the Blu-ray should be coming tomorrow, so I kind of missed. I feel bad. I thought I was going to get the Blu-ray today.
It's okay. It's all right.
It's fine.
The good thing about the DVD is it's unedited. And not to get on my soapbox here, which I guess I will be getting on my soapbox.
Well, you might go out of camera if you're on a soapbox.
So, this movie on DVD is not edited. Where if you go to various streaming services where it's playing, it is edited. And this is a big bugaboo with me. And these guys, they've known me long enough to know.
Bugaboo.
That's a word.
That's a word. That's an old word.
I am not happy with censorship. I am not happy with movies being edited because of quote unquote behavior or words or whatever. I won't say the words because this is a family-friendly show.
Is it?
I'm not going
to say. You also probably
the
shouldn't say them in general, but
yeah, you shouldn't say them in general. But if you know the character of Popeye Doyle, he's a real man. He was a real New York City detective, and he was not a very nice guy, politically correct guy. So when he goes into a bar of Latinos, blacks, whatever, he's going to use profanity. He's going to call them names. That's what Popeye Doyle would do. So in the movie, William Friedkin, and this happened, Gene Hackman talked to William Friedkin, and they like to call him Billy Friedkin. Hey, do you think this character would say these? Yes, he would. This is who the characters. So Gene Hackman actually brought this up. And William Friedkin, Billy, said, hey, no, this is who Popeye Doyle is. And so guess what? They left it in. Now, 45 years later, almost 50 years later, I think it's 50 years later now, they edit this movie and take out some of these profanities and some of these words that now are politically incorrect to say. But back then, they said them. I don't say these words. Let's put it that way. I don't say these words. But when you're trying to make a character realistic and you want the character to come across to right to the audience, you need to have the character say the things that the character would say. And this is based on a real person. Now, back then in 1972, The French Connection won the Academy Award for Best Picture. It won Best Actor no. Gene Hackman did not win Best Actor, did he?
I don't know. You're the Oscar guy.
I think it was Marlon Brando, I believe, right? 71? No, this is 71. My bad. 1971. He did win Best Actor. Gene Hackman did win Best Actor, and The French Connection won Best Picture, and I think William Friedkin won Best Director. This movie is so gritty and so dark and so grimy. It makes New York look ugly. And back then, that's what I want in my movies in the 70s. Grimy, dirty, gritty. And it's about a drug smuggler from France, hence the title, The French Connection. And they are smuggling drugs in a nice car. But Popeye and his partner, played by Roy Scheider, Jaws, anybody? All That Jazz, anybody? 2 other great films in the 70s with Roy Scheider. They're basically ripping their hair out trying to figure out what is going on with these guys and how are they smuggling these. They know they're smuggling drugs into this country, but they don't know how. There's a whole sequence where they rip this car apart trying to find these drugs. I will watch that scene over and over again. I love that scene. The other scene is where he's trying to find this guy, this Frenchman. He's trying to follow this Frenchman, and they're going down hallways, alleyways, trains, and this and that. And finally, the Frenchman gets away. But I alluded to it before. This has got arguably the best chase scene of all time until To Live and Die in L.A., where Gene Hackman is chasing a train. The train is on an elevated rail in New York City, and he's driving along underneath. And I might add, this is happening in real time. There's no editing. He's running over garbage cans. This all happened in real time. Remember that scene in Midnight Cowboy where they set it up for Dustin Hoffman and to walk across the street, and the cab comes. He goes, "I'm walking here." Completely ad-libbed, happened in real time. They set that thing up 30 times. They thought they had it that time. But this all happened. They filmed this in real time. This is a real-time car chase through the streets of New York, and it is glorious. I loved every minute of it, and I think as a natural pairing with L.A., To Live and Die in L.A., they have the greatest car chase of all time. This has got the second probably greatest car chase of all time. Both films are filmed by William Friedkin, and they're both fantastic films. I think if you love or if you like L.A., To Live and Die in L.A., you should watch The French Connection or vice versa. You love The French Connection, you definitely should see To Live and Die in L.A., and there are two magic connections for I don't think you could ask for two better films to be fit together. As far as William Friedkin, car chases, smuggling, money counterfeiting, kind of smuggling drugs, counterfeiting, a lot of the similar police, New York police, LA police. You get the grimy, dirty side of New York. You get the grimy, dirty side of LA. I mean, I got it.
We made that connection. I got it.
We see
the connection.
You're really selling it, Dan.
What's interesting is that Friedkin would kind of go back to the same themes that he was exploring in The French Connection to kind of, repurpose and To Live and Die in L.A., but with, counterfeiting and stuff like that on a more, larger scale, federal level and whatnot. French Connection's an all-time classic. Like I said, 1971, Best Picture winner, Best Actor, Best Editing. It won all kinds of awards. That scene is notorious for them not having the permits to do that car chase scene. And that accident that happens in it was something that happened when he almost ran over that individual with all the cans and stuff. And they just left it in the movie. It's notoriously unscripted. It's wild. What is interesting is that if you've ever seen the French Connection poster, like the theatrical poster, kind of gives away the end of the movie. It's so weird how they kept that poster for the last 50 years. And it's like, I guess if you don't know the context, you don't know what's going on. But you're right. It is a quintessential 70s dark, gritty, grimy film. It's very much part of 70s American New Hollywood cinema was all of those things. And this film is very much in that vein, as well as William Friedkin was very much in that vein. He had a hell of a decade in terms of directing.
French we all know him as the director of The Exorcist. We're getting the 50th anniversary 4K of The Exorcist. I'm sure you guys talked about that on Chasing Labels this week. I'm sure people will get all the info. You're going to share all that with them eventually here.
No, we didn't talk about that.
Ironically, it's put out by Warner Brothers, so we don't cover their releases.
Oh, my bad.
But either way, I mean, people should be excited to, I guess, getting a 50th anniversary edition of that. It has been 50 years since that movie came out. But like I said, he directed French Connection, then went on to direct The Exorcist 2 years later. And then he directed Sorcerer, which I think is criminally underrated, from 1977.
I got to see that.
Which is a readaptation of the book Wages of Fear. Some people believe
Wages of Fear is just so good.
It's the Henri Georges Clouzot film, which people think that Sorcerer is a remake of it, which I guess if it's a readaptation of the same source material, perhaps. But I think Sorcerer is very, very good. It has a Blu-ray release.
It's got an Arrow release.
I gotta get that.
I like Saucer as well. I do prefer Wages of Fear.
Yeah, I do as well.
Yeah, I think it's handled a little bit more. It's not as chaotic. I think the way that it was filmed and put together and
Saucer feels like a larger budgeted, more Hollywood money type of version of
the
story,
setting is
because it is,
it is, yeah. It's way more bells and whistles, and it's not as honed in on the dramatic elements of
the character stuff in Wages of Fear is what really carries that film. Henri Georges Clouzot, who is notoriously known as the French Hitchcock. And it's available from Criterion on Blu-ray, I believe. And I would love to see that get a 4K re-release at some point. If Criterion, if you hear me, that'd be nice. That black and white would probably look incredible.
With Diabolique.
Diabolique, another kind of French Hitchcock film, which I believe, not to go off on a tangent here, Stephen, you're going to have to stop me.
I'm about to.
Yeah, Hitchcock wanted to get the rights to the book that Diabolique is based on, and then I think Georges Clouzot just got to it before he did. So that's kind of a whole mini story about that.
All right. But great guys, great pairings. Okay, so we'll end on my hijinks.
No thoughts on mine, Steven? No thoughts on mine?
No.
He said what I would have said. They're good movie, good pairing. What else am I gonna say? You said everything.
Everyone knows
10. You talked for 10 minutes. What else?
Everybody knows the French Connection.
I'm sorry. I was excited.
No, you're fine. I just don't have. There's nothing else I could add that you both haven't already said.
Okay.
They're great movies. They go great together. You win.
Yeah, I want to know what yours is, Steven. Come on.
Yeah. So, in choosing a movie pairing for a movie that you couldn't understand, made this difficult. And because usually when I do pairings of movies, I think more about thematics than I think about anything else. I like to think about what the movie was trying to say and maybe find something that's similar or find something that contrasts to that. But because I didn't know what the hell was going on in this movie, I decided to go a more simplistic route. And there are two actors in this movie, Sean William Scott and Dwayne Johnson, that did a movie 3 years earlier than this that's way better than this movie.
No one talks
and more
about this
simplistic. And it's called The Rundown.
Yeah. So underrated.
Underrated, directed by Peter Berg. Like I said, I did have the DVD. I got to get the Blu-ray. But directed by Peter Berg, starring Dwayne Johnson, Sean William Scott, and Rosario Dawson's also in the film, along with the man,
Steve Zahn?
Christopher
Walken. That's
Steve Zahn's not in that?
No, you're thinking of Sean William Scott.
Oh, okay.
They look similar in this movie.
Oh, okay.
Shaved head. They look very similar. White guys try to be funny all the time.
Oh, okay.
So in this film, Dwayne Johnson plays essentially a mercenary of sorts. His kind of skill. I mean, you don't get a lot of backstory about his character. You just know he's a guy that is hired to retrieve people, and he wants to be a cook. He wants to own his own restaurant. So he's doing this job to get out of the business. This is supposed to be like the one last job. And he is told by his employer to go get his son, who is in like another country, doing something. He doesn't know what he's doing. And so he goes to this country to find him. You know, of course, the son's played Sean William Scott. And Sean William Scott is out searching for this kind of item called the gato, which is this kind of like a something that the local natives kind of worship. They look at it as something that has got value to it, whatever. But when he gets there, there's this mining company that's there that's also looking for it, and it's led by Christopher Walken. And so from there, it's very simple. It's just hijinks ensue. As he's trying to get Sean William Scott's character there, trying to capture him and bring him home, and he's trying to get away all the time. It's Tom and Jerry. And then along the way, you got Rosario Dawson's character, who's also there, but she's there, I think, to help protect the gato. No, wait. No, she's trying to take it too, I believe, if I'm remembering. I have not watched this movie in a few years, but I remember it pretty well because I've seen it like 20 times. But I believe she actually wants the Gato as well. And it's kind of like an Indiana Jones thing, like everybody's kind of going after the thing, but nobody's really, there's like one bad guy, but then there's like these kind of like people that are too good. They're good people, but they both want the same thing and for different reasons. So she wants the Gato as well. And, so it's got some great action set pieces. There's scenes where they fall down a big, mountainside and hit every tree on the way down. It hurts just watching it. There's a scene where they eat this like fruit that makes them go into like a high, and they start seeing each other and their faces all get disfigured and everything like that. It's a pretty fun scene. There's things in this movie that I quote still to this day. One is like when they're like in the jungle and Sean William Scott needs to take a break and he's like, "There's no breaks." And he's like, "Oh, no breaks. Santa Claus doesn't give any breaks." There's something like, and me and my brother still say stuff like that. There's some fun action scenes. There's some fighting scenes with whips. These two guys have these whips and they're like trying to hit Dwayne Johnson. And throughout the movie, he's always talking about how he doesn't like to use guns. He's all about just hand-to-hand combat. That's the only way he'll get things done. But at the end, shit hits the fan, and he finally has to use guns to save the day. And he goes into crazy action movie mode. This is when Dwayne Johnson wasn't quite, as big in general, but like physically big. He was still like kind of slim. He was still kind of like a little bit baby faced, and he just gotten done doing. I believe the
Scorpion King,
and this was his second film, his first kind of starring vehicle, and I mean, I think it's like you said, an underrated action film that's got great chemistry between its characters, very simple, straight to the point, but some really fun action scenes. That's my pairing with. I don't know that I can really suggest to watch these two movies together. But that the only way you need to do it, you can watch The Rundown and then start to watch Southland Tales and be like, I'm good after an hour, and then like turn it off.
What you should do is this: don't watch Southland Tales. Watch The Rundown. You'll enjoy yourself much more because The Rundown is fantastic. It's hilarious. The chemistry between The Rock and Sean William Scott is fantastic, and of course, you throw that curveball in there with Walken, and then Rosario Dawson's always good with. She can always mix it in with the guys a lot of times.
There's some good slow motion explosion walkaways. Some of that stuff.
Yeah, this is so interesting because it is The Rock's like third film he was ever in. He was in the second Mummy film, which is I literally just had it up. He was in that The Mummy Returns. Scorpion King came out the next year. Then the next year after that, 2003. So this movie is celebrating its 20th anniversary.
Hell yeah.
Rundown, and then after that he was in Walking Tall. No one ever talks about that.
Another underrated little movie.
I saw that in the theater. It was at the time where they were just like they were starting to jumpstart The Rock's career with doing these, action type of situations. I mean, now he's doing action all the time.
You know what's another underrated one? Faster. Remember Faster?
Yeah, that's another one.
He kind of plays a Terminator in that movie.
Yeah,
he doesn't talk a lot.
He's been in a lot. I didn't realize how much The Rock's actually been in. When you go to his IMDb, they actually like put all of his wrestling, like his WWE credits in between his acting credits. So you have to sift through all of them because I guess technically The Rock is a character that he is portraying. And wrestling is a entertainment program. So I guess it does kind of qualify there. It just makes it hard to see all of his movie roles in between. Like he was in SummerSlam, he was in the Royal Rumble and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, how do I find all this?
Now it's easier. He doesn't wrestle anymore. But.
He pops up every now and then in wrestling, not so much anymore, but and they also like credit him in the wrestling video games is in here as well. When they used him in Fortnite, he was in there. He gets a credit for that under his acting name. But it's wild. His IMDb is rather lengthy because of that. But yeah, early Rock is very interesting.
Very. Well, I mean, he was. You could tell he started getting better as his career went on. He started getting better. Like The Rundown was one of those movies. Walking Tall, he started getting better. Each year went by, he got better and better as an actor.
Well, I don't know that he's okay. This might be controversial. I don't think he's a good actor. I don't know that he's a good actor now. But
I think what's interesting, you're saying, Steve, I don't want to cut you off, but he started out doing, like you were saying, like the roles, like being an action star. Then he tried to like challenge himself a little bit with like he had a bit part in Be Cool. Yeah. He had a bit part in Be Cool. He did Southland Tales. You know what I mean? And then he did like then he went back to doing like Game Plan and those other roles.
Essentially, Dave Bautista did what he did, but better.
Yeah,
Dave Bautista got better at challenging roles.
Dave Bautista was very strategic with his roles. He didn't just take whatever came his way.
I mean, he's had some clunkers, but like, he's definitely been more successful with his like swings, like his little part in Blade Runner. You know.
Oh, fantastic!
His little part in Blade Runner 2049, and then
I like his comedy. The comedy with the little girl, and the one with
Stuber's okay.
The one with Kumail Nanjiani, I love that one.
It's okay. I mean, but they're better. They're better than his comedy choices, which were the Disney era of The Rock, where he did like the stupid football movie. And
he did Game Plan.
And then Tooth Fairy.
Gridiron Gang is good though. I would argue.
Well, he's playing himself. He's playing a football. You know, coach.
He was also in Get Smart, Race to Witch Mountain.
Get Smart, but he's barely in that movie though.
Tooth Fairy.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah.
He does have that small role in The Other Guys with Samuel L. Jackson.
That's pretty funny.
Which is pretty like
the beginning of that they're in is pretty funny. But you know, he's never really became, I would say, a good actor. He still challenges himself somewhat. He's kind of fallen a little bit into a little bit of a lull right now where he's just kind of playing the same type of character. He's played in like 5 Jumanji movies now. I know it's only like 3.
It's like 2, but yeah.
But it's, and then like, it's like all these roles are kind of, and he's played in a few Fast and Furious movies. I mean, it's
Jungle. Oh, I guess we're getting the spinoff. Spoiler, we're going to get a spinoff with The Rock's character.
I don't care.
He made up with Vin Diesel. We're getting
I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah. It's his career's kind of on, I mean, not to have a Fast and Furious like connection here, but it's kind of on cruise control. You know what I mean? All of his movies that he's doing are kind of like the standard stuff that's in his wheelhouse. Stephen and I talked about Tom Cruise a few episodes ago on our podcast, how Tom Cruise is kind of in cruise control, where he's just doing Mission Impossible and not really challenging himself. He's sticking with roles that he knows he's good in, and he's good in them. You know what I mean?
I liked him in Jungle Cruise. I liked the
Rock. Jungle Cruise. Yeah. It's great. Movie's not good either.
Steven, you're not a fan of Jungle Cruise.
I'm not. It was not good. It was boring. It's a CGI mess. I mean, but that was about the best I could do with the pairing for this movie, because I had to go with the simplistic idea of just these two actors were in a movie together before this movie. That's way better. So that's it. That's it for this installment of the Unwatched Pile. Dan, thank you for joining us, man.
Hey, man, I had a blast. You know, anytime I get together with my good buddies, guys, we go back 10 years on YouTube.
It's ridiculous.
I cannot believe we've been doing this for almost 10 years on YouTube. But you can, I'm a film critic in Orlando, Florida. I write for 2 websites, FromTheFourthRow.com and DisappointmentMedia.com. Also, I have a special 5-part YouTube, a 3-platform series that I'm doing. It's a 5-episode series on 3 platforms: Letterboxd, YouTube, and on my website, FromTheFourthRow.com. And it's celebrating my existence, 50 years of my life, my love, 50 years in film. And episode 3 will be out in less than 2 weeks, featuring these 2 guys right here. You're looking at
finally.
Yeah,
I thought it was out already.
No. The last 2 episodes have my good buddy Sandy, my good buddy Jeremy. Now your episode is coming out in August, and I was glad that you guys were able to do that episode with me, and so look forward to that in a couple weeks. Also, I've done another couple of my buddies, Chad and Dylan show. It's called Picture This, where they have a revisionist history of the Academy Awards. We run down each of the movies from the thing. We did the entire Godfather trilogy, 72, 74, and 1990, and also 1980. So I'm on 4 episodes of that. And I'm a award show pundit, and I do a show. We're kind of doing bi-weekly right now until we really kick into the award season. With all these strikes and stuff, this isn't doing us any favors. But it's called Gone with the Wind with my co-host Malcolm Lay. So if there's anybody out there listening to this, you like talking about awards shows and stuff, you're interested, reach out to me or Malcolm, and if we deem you worthy, we bring you on to the show and we'll talk some award shows with you, nominees or specific category or whatever. So, but I love you guys. Thank you for bringing me back. I'm that, like I said, I'm that old penny that I keep finding my way back.
I know. I don't know why I haven't spent you yet.
Nice.
But thanks, Dan. We appreciate you. We always appreciate your input and your enthusiasm for film. It's constant. It's you're always watching stuff. I don't know how you do it, but Andrew, of course, thanks once again for joining me. You're always around too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thanks everybody for watching and listening. And of course, hey, watch some shit. Get that Unwatched Pile. Get some shit off there. Have a good night, guys.